Good afternoon, all our viewers. I wish your week is going on well so far. And I welcome you to this week's community show hosted by the Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV. In this week's show, we are going to discuss what is on the mind of all of us in this country and what has been caused by, of course, the climate change and other very many factors that are going on globally. The issue of hunger in Karamoja. Karamoja is a semi-arid area which constantly experiences drought. And so far this year, Karamoja has experienced immense drought that has occasioned the hunger we are seeing. Of course, because of lack of rains and very many factors. But needless to say, Karamoja has also had a number of challenges this year, most prominent being the issue of cattle rustling. There's been instability from the end of last year and the beginning of this year, where the number of raids, tribal raids between communities across the various borders, those coupled with climate change, this disaster we are seeing, the drought, which has also brought about hunger. To discuss further, I am joined by distinguished people who are largely based in the Karamoja area and some who have studied and have immense knowledge on this region. Today with us is Captain Chris Mike Okiyra, who is RDC in Kabong. Did I get it right?
Yes.
RDC of Kabong in the Karamoja region. We're also joined by Agustine, Olowo, Charles Donaldson Ogira, and GoodLuck Musinguzi. All these are people interested in that area. I know Charles Ogira works in that area, and equally Agustine Olowo. I would like each one of you to introduce yourselves, and we shall kick this off. Please, Captain, begin by introducing yourself briefly and what you do. Then we shall have the others, and we shall come back to you to set the pace.
Thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity. My name, once again, is Captain Chris Mike Okiyra, the Resident District Commissioner, Kabong District. I'm very, very, very happy to be part of this program.
Thank you very much. Can we have now Agustine?
All right, good afternoon, viewers. My name is Agustine Olowo, and for community work, I am chair of Padola Youth Forum, but I am also an ambassador of peace. I am very happy to be part of today's discussion.
Yes, can we have Donaldson? Okay, good luck. Okay, and I am your host, Martin Musiime. So to begin this conversation, we would like to hear first from the RDC of Kabong. Kabong is in Karamoja, and Kabong is actually among the districts that had hit in this catastrophe that has befallen Karamoja. So, in fact, we would like to hear from the RDC of Kabong. Want to hear what is on ground in your district, but also would like to hear any information around around the other districts. You know, perhaps you could be knowing. Kabong is a district with an estimated, according to Daily Monitor, that around 70,000 people are affected, you know, in Kabong alone. So please, Mike.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank and appreciate Civic Space TV for giving me this opportunity. And also, I would like to appreciate the Center for Constitutional Governance for sponsoring this program for us to discuss food security in Karamoja. Allow me to give a brief background. The first implementing partner to raise a red flag about acute food shortage in Karamoja was World Food Program. And this was after they conducted a very detailed research and disseminated that research last year, 2021. These findings were communicated to all the district leaders in Karamoja. That meeting happened in Moroto around April last year. Again, UNICEF also conducted a research in 2022 this year on food security and nutritional assessment in Karamoja. And this research came out with very, very critical findings where it was found increasing household food insecurity. 1, 2, critical levels of acute malnutrition in Karamoja. These findings went a step ahead to specify the worst hit districts, Moroto, because there were 3 of acute malnutrition. Actually, the global acute malnutrition scale, which is from 15% to 29.9%, Kabong presented 19.6%, and Moroto presented 21.9%. And as a result of this, UNICEF went a step ahead and organized the meeting in Kampala for disseminating these facts for purposes of lobbying. Currently, as I speak now, Kabong conducted a food assessment report, a food assessment of June. We have a report of food assessment June this year, and that report also confirmed that our food security situation is very severe. For example, we have got wasting of our children. There is iron deficiency. We have got very many children with anemia. There is visible stunting amongst the children, and the coping mechanisms are very difficult because now people have had to reduce the number of meals they take per day. They have reduced on the quality of food they take per day, and they also go borrowing food from relatives. And an analysis was made. The families that are taking 1 meal per day account for 70%. The families that are taking 2 meals per day account for only 25%. And 1 meal per day, they account for 0.5%. Now, this is the situation in Kabong, but as the statistics showed, the situation in Moroto was comparable to the situation in Kabong. But recently, from even the Parliament of Uganda, it was very clear NAPAC has got also very serious impact. And when you go to Kotido, they also have a very serious situation of acute food shortage. So this is the problem. Now, if you are to allow me to mention just 2 possible causes of this situation, just like Martin pointed out, last year we experienced a drought in Kabong, and we actually experienced crop failure. And when you couple this one with the insecurity of illegal guns in the hands of some people, this occasioned the number of raids from about 34 corrals, we remained with about only 4. So we experienced livestock loss, And once you lose livestock in Karamoja, it means that you have lost the oxygen for you to be able to open land. The animal traction system was sabotaged. Again, when you lose livestock, then you don't have milk for the children, even for the elderly. When you lose livestock, then agriculture production dramatically goes down. So all of these factors combined together, they have caused us acute food shortage in Karamoja in general. And with me who works in Kabong, it is very visible in the communities. But let me hasten to add that government has moved in very quickly, provide food relief with us in Kabong. We first received 5 trailers of food relief. Each trailer was carrying 20 tons of posho and then 10 tons of beans. Again, they added us 12 trailers of food relief. And this week, we received 5 trailers of food relief. And as this one is happening, even World Food Program has got interventions, provide some food relief for our people. So this is the background. This is what's happening. And it is a matter that needs our discussion and to be able to discuss and propose possible way forward. I will come back to discuss that part of the discussion, possible way forward. I would like to thank you so very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Captain. Augustine, you've listened to the statistics of the RDC. You've also had the cause. He has diagnosed the issue at hand. How do you respond? And what is your reaction to this?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. And to the RDC as well for the statistics. I want to add on what he has said. Well, there are all these statistics that he says and he gives us. But for a very long time, let us not look at Karamoja from 2021. Karamoja has been with the high level of poverty. Karamoja has people who are landless. You know, we have the highest number of people in our streets here, young kids, begging and so on. And they are always associated with the Karamoja. Karamoja has always been hit with the other natural disasters. Karamoja right now has a very high level of food and commodity prices. Now, Karamoja also has less than 50% of its people educated. The illiteracy rate there is over 50%. But also, most importantly, Karamoja has leaders who are powerless. So there is also an issue of powerlessness in Karamoja, and yet all these people depend seriously on agriculture of cattle, like the RDC has noted. I therefore think that with all this, and yet all the statistics of World Food Program and UNICEF that he has talked about classify Karamoja as an area in crisis, in the high phase 3 food crisis. So basically, like you said, not so much to take. We need to implore government and all the other organizations that have tried, both civil and otherwise, who have tried to go rescue Karamoja, to stand in there. But also they need a lasting solution. You know, they have always showed that there has been handouts of trailers of food, this and the other. But Karamoja's problem, just like Uganda's problem now, needs a comprehensive approach to things, not just taking those handouts to the people of Karamoja sub-region. I will also be interested in discussing what can be done. But also for now, he identifies Karamoja as a place with a lot of guns in the hands of the people. I want to note that there has been a lot of disarmament programs for Karamoja, but this is not enough. You cannot just say the disarmament alone can get our people out of that. So we need stringent approaches to life. We need better ways of managing this hunger. so that our people can get out of that. Also, Karamoja has been ignored. I think the RDC has not realized this, that Karamoja, just like a few other eastern regions of Uganda, have been ignored by government for a long time. Imagine the time when they were in hunger, the time when this was coming, 2021, 2022 in the beginning. What was government's interest? Government's interest was on the fights that are in Karamoja, but keeping silent on the crisis of hunger. There was a time when Karamoja was awash everywhere, people killing each other and so on, that what they called tribal. But in the end, we ignore the small things that people go through that has now become a bigger crisis of hunger. So government needs to get interest in this. Powerlessness that I was talking about, you know that the current visible minister for Karamoja is Agnes Nandutu from the Elgon region. Now, there are a lot of people educated even within Karamoja, but you see, we have to fetch from far so that they come and understand programs and problems of the people of Karamoja. Agnes Nandutu is a first timer in parliament. Well, she has been a journalist, but she has not moved in the entire Karamoja. So I agree with them that if we need African problems, they need to be solved by African leaders, African solutions. If we need to solve Karamoja problems, we need powerfulness from Karamoja itself. Let Mojong people understand, who understand more their problem, come in and try to solve their own problems. Let them try to understand than bringing me from I don't know where. I first take another 3 years of understanding what the people of Karamoja are facing before I start now implementing. So I think there will be a lot more for us to discuss, especially on how we get our people out of this. Otherwise, I can cite away from just the malnutrition. Those are some of the other things I can add as causes of hunger in Karamoja. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you very much for that. You've stated, but then I would ask you, Augustine, or I would state that Karamoja has many leaders. It has members of parliament. It has LC5 chairpersons. It has mayors. It has local councils. So I don't know. Does it have to really be a problem if just one person, a minister, is not from that region, and it has very many layers of leadership? But also, I would like to contribute to the discussion on the poverty levels. UNHS, as quoted by the Relief Web, has quoted that Karamoja has a food poverty of 70%. That means 70% people are at the verge, or they cannot necessarily afford to sustain themselves and have food security, And then income poverty levels are at 61%. Those numbers are quite appalling, and it's a disaster. But maybe you would like Augustine to respond to what I've said. Does it have to be really a minister from the region to improve, for standards to become better? Before Mike comes.
But Alex, all these LC1, LC3, and all this, I appreciate they are leaders from that place. They are leaders from that region. The point is, do they have the power? Where does the power center lie, especially for Uganda? Our power center really on LC1, whose work is basically sensitized, who has been stolen, and whose ones in these poor regions do. So we have leaders, that is true everywhere, but where does power lie? If we are talking about government interventions, didn't you see the MPs from Karamoja also crying in front of the media the other day? They are also asking government to help them, but they are MPs from Karamoja region. So I agree, we have all these leaders. In fact, the minister in charge of disaster relief and disaster preparedness, the state minister at least, is from there. But even when we have all those people, where does power lie? In my opinion, power lies closest to State House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you say power lies closest to State House. We have an RDC, and we know the RDCs are within the structure of really State House and Office of the President. So they are representatives of the President in a region. And to you, Mr. RDC, you read to us statistics that pointed to the fact that this was not unexpected. This was foreseen. You said UNICEF conducted a research and indeed showed that there's food insecurity and the situation would worsen, you know. Malnutrition levels were again projected to go high. The food assessments you also read out pointed that indeed this was bound to happen. You noted that from October last year, you know, there were signs of the catastrophe that we have now happening. Why did it have to take government? I mean, why did this have to happen? Yet this was expected. This had been foreseen. Why did it have to take this long to have government intervene, if it has intervened in any way? I mean, if it has intervened substantially, with the exception of just handouts.
I would like to thank you, Martin, for the question. First and foremost, I would like to disagree with the Comrade Agustine, who says that the government ignored the situation in Karamoja. The district local governments, if you are to look at the district local government of Kabong, my district chairperson has been very active to engage the government. We have compiled reports together about the food situation. And out of that lobbying and informing the central government about our situation, a number of things have happened. In the last 6 months, His Excellency the President has visited Karamoja twice at Morulinga. And in the last visit, which was on 13th, 12th, and 13th of June, His Excellency came to do two major things. One, he gave a directive of stopping cattle raids in Karamoja once and for all. And the security departments were given measures on how to conduct that. Secondly, in the interest of socio-economic transformation, His Excellency the President launched the Community Empowerment Program, which is running under OPM. And in there, at parish level, government is supplying goats to Kuralo-based Karachuna. Every Karachuna is to receive 16 goats. That program was launched by His Excellency the President at Naitakwe ground in Moroto. And it is for all the districts in Karamoja. The purpose is our younger people should be able to embrace alternative livelihoods instead of them running around the bushes going for raids. The other one was also to launch distribution of iron sheets. The idea is to encourage the younger people to settle down. At parish level, 7 vulnerable families were identified by the Office of Cow. Their data was compiled, and those are supposed to benefit 26 iron sheets each. And to go back to the Kuralo-based Karachuna, the Office of Cow identified 15 Kuralo-based Karachunas at parish level. So that is part of the intervention. And again, when the President was at Morulinga, he also proposed that the Karachuna should be organized in groups so that they are equipped with the machines for making concrete blocks, so that it becomes part of their income generating activity. They build their own houses, but at the same time, they're able to produce concrete blocks to be able to market. The other thing which the President proposed was provision of tractors, because the animal tractor system has been run down. So government is committed to provide the tractors. Of course, that's a long-term strategy. The other program which is running is the parish development model to support smallholder farmers. So this program has already In Kabong, we have already received the money at the parish level. Every circle has received the money, 11 million shillings. And that money is to be to facilitate the parish circles to engage in enterprises. For example, those ones who are able to do goat rearing, those ones who are able to do serial banking. They have identified their enterprises which they can be able to engage in for purposes of improving household incomes. And the government has also supported multiplication of early maturing seeds at Nabui, which is a zonal agricultural research center in Moroto. So there are a number of interventions which have been put in place to respond to the food situation. And again, under parish development model, government is capturing it that as I speak now, farmers who can be able to cultivate 50 acres and above to be supported so that there is increased production and productivity in the agricultural sector. So there is a lot that is happening, and I would like to encourage our people in Karamoja that government is committed to respond. The government is going to provide the tools of production so that our people are able to produce enough for the family and also for the market. I would like to thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's interesting, you know, what you say, and you giving us quite optimistic viewpoints. It makes us think that perhaps there is a lot that has been going on, but I'm wondering, why hasn't it been sort of enough to address this challenge? You know, you've mentioned all those very many programs, and this should go to either Donaldson or GoodLuck if they are listening. You're free to react to this. Why does it have to take this long to solve even the basic things such as hunger? On top of what the RDC has said, the Ministry of Agriculture has actually asked for a supplementary budget, you know. So Charles and Mike tells us that, you know what, there are these programs going on, there is NACRIP, there is, you know, there's something on the development model. There are very many good things that, I mean, the president has been there, launched this and that, but yet it hadn't seen that there would be an issue with hunger. In fact, the Ministry of Agriculture has started the process of getting a supplementary budget to do something they call sort of an agricultural response. You know, they have formed an agricultural kind of response strategy to help in the hunger situation in Karamoja. Basically, it is to increase agriculture in that area so that there is food security. And to quote the president approving the response plan, this was reported by Daily Monitor on must have been 20th of July, that this is essentially aimed at providing agricultural machinery, seeds, fertilizers, and equipment for irrigation. Also prepare, then he directed the Prime Minister to prepare all the necessary anti-pest measures to protect the crops. Mike says all those very many things were going on, yet we are also seeing the president, office of the Prime Minister, and also the Agricultural Ministry just saying, you know, let us get organized to begin these processes of, you know, machinery, seeds, fertilizers. How hard is it to have some of these things? Do we need supplementary budgets? Do we need to keep coming back on to this every single year? What's your take? Good luck. Okay, I'm seeing Charles is ready. Charles, what is your take?
All right, thank you so much, Alex. It's a pleasure hearing from Captain Mike the beautiful programs that the government has for Karamoja and the different interventions to respond to the various challenges that we face as a region. To me, it has always been a question that amidst all this intervention that the government has for Karamoja, why is it that people still continue to be poor and we fail to meet the basic requirement, food, as a society or as a community? When we fail to meet some of these basic needs, then we are most likely to fail in our own various mechanisms. For me, what I see is that the government has not put enough effort in ensuring that they respond to the issues of Karamoja. The government has not okay, the Karamoja issues is a very unique issue that requires a bottom-up approach to intervention. It doesn't require a charity-based approach like the government is trying to impose on Karamoja, the PDM. These are really not feasible interventions that will respond to the dire needs of people in Karamoja. For me, I would argue that the government should try to look into the human rights-based approach of intervention of the intervention. They need a bottom-up approach. They need to communicate. They need to find out from the local people what is it that they really face. We shouldn't respond to issues of Karamoja when we see that the media is being awash with information about the dying community in the country, and we call ourselves that we have reached a middle income, such as when we still have a given sections of marginalized communities in Karamoja sub-region, I mean in Uganda, failing to meet the basic requirements for that livelihood. To me, I feel the intervention should be as holistic as possible with strong legislative framework put in place for the people of Karamoja by the government. Because if this is not put in place, we will continue responding to symptoms of some of these challenges. To me, what I see is poverty and illiteracy are key factors that are key driving factors to the various challenges that we face as a region, Alex. But you find that all the response mechanisms are symptomatic, which really doesn't answers the question. Besides, Karamoja is one place that is very much blessed with minerals, with different types of minerals. And where do these minerals go? You find that the weighing bridges, which could be put in place for some of these minerals to be trickled down for the advantage of the local people, are not put in place. The government keep on looting, the companies loot, the middlemen and the likes keep on looting from the people because they feel this is a section of a community who are not informed, who do not really know what it takes for them to be in position to ask the government, to ask the hard questions to the government. Actually, the governance and accountability aspect in Karamoja is not being attended to. And various governance and accountability projects have failed in Karamoja because of the threats that the state actors imposed on people from Karamoja. Whenever a section of people of young people come up on streets to condemn some of these incidences, you find that they are bashed out of the street with tear gas. Some of them are brutally tortured, and these are really things that we have seen happen. But the government still and several other stakeholders still tells us that the issue of Karamoja is political. Honestly, if it is political, what is it that the politicians themselves have done? Why shouldn't they politicize it positively for the benefit of the local people, instead of saying like the world state minister for Karamoja we do not see a single office erect in any region, in any district of Karamoja. What are their interventions? We see the state minister for disaster preparedness, Honorable Faith Anyakon, Nyakon Esther, right on our Twitter handle, that the issues of Karamoja, the poverty, the food crisis in Karamoja are political. If they are political, what is it that she has done as a minister, someone who comes from the land. What is that he has done to ensure that we make it to the interventions to ensure that we respond to the issues of Karamoja? Let me stop here for now. As the rest of the members also contribute. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yes, it's also important to note when you talk about the politicians and what, it's important to note that Karamoja is actually predominantly votes NRM. I think it's over 95% vote going to NRM and the representatives. It's around 95% from the ruling party. So I don't know whether it's a question of Karamoja's political life or political decisions, but it seems the voting patterns are in favor of NRM. Good luck. I'd like to hear. Yes, I'd like to hear from you about this conversation. The situation is quite dire. You know, as many people have pointed out, it's in fact Daily Monitor of 21st July 2022, the one I quoted earlier, that shows that Ministry of Agriculture has for supplementary budget to implement a response kind of program, response strategy. The same Daily Monitor reported that around 600 deaths due to starvation have occurred in Karamoja. The situation is quite dire and saddening. So good luck. What is your contribution? Weigh in on this entire discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I am a journalist. I actually run with some other colleagues in the Karamoja region. We have a website called Karamoja News, where I'm able to follow what happens. I don't want to say I'm a bit saddened by the discussion, but also for me, whatever happens in Karamoja and the way also we discuss it, I have a feeling that we tend to lose it in that discussion, the way we look at things. Let me go back. Let me take you a little bit back. Karamoja faced the worst famine in 1981. I don't think Karamoja has faced another similar problem like it did in 1981. In 1992, there was also hunger, which is similar of what we are seeing today. But to add on what the RDC said among the problems, there was also the African worm, the army worm. If you remember, we've had the army worm. So the army worm affected, there are people who had put some seeds in the ground. So when the army worm affected the seeds, it was difficult for families maybe who had now couldn't afford maybe more seeds. So it's also something that shouldn't be overlooked because it affected most of the districts. Now, I wanted to discuss this by starting on this point. And to our colleagues who are in Karamoja, when the many times I've visited Karamoja, the first things I see, when you go around Karamoja, who dominates the business, who dominates business in Karamoja? The entrepreneurs, where do they come from? Do we, as the RDC and maybe my other colleague will tell you, most people who are dominating business are from Bugisu area. They own, the few hotels I've stayed in, they are owned by people from there. Some of the leading shops are owned by people from that place. Who is dominating the jobs? It is people from Teso region who dominate most of the jobs. Thirdly, I want to include this one. Until, I don't know whether the RDC could update us, but until like 2-3 months ago, out of the 9 districts, Karamoja only had 3 districts with district service commissions. That means there are critical offices which have not been filled because there is no district service commission. You find some districts go to hire other district service commissions to help them. Fourthly, I want to talk about the elites from Karamoja. Those who have gone to school, those who have jobs, what are their role in the current situation? Fifth, I want to talk about the leaders. And I'm happy the RDC is here. But for me, I would ask fundamental questions. The budgeting. Every other district has a budget. So I would want to ask, what are the budgets in these districts? What are the district leaders doing with their budgets? Because also, it's not also good to keep saying Kampala, Kampala, Kampala. The solutions must come within from Karamoja, like Charles was saying. Now, when you go on the political aspect part of it, they have 29 MPs. They have 2 ministers among the 29. Then you have other 2 ministers attached to the Karamoja region. Those are 4. My question is, what are you doing apart from you waking up and saying this is happening? And I don't want to say this, but let me say this as a journalist. We know in Ethiopia and Sudan, if you remember, where there was hunger, there's a journalist who had a camera. He went to take a picture of a child who was being devoured by the birds, and the child died. And he took the pictures to show to the world. But the world condemned him. It said, when you saw this, the child was still alive. What did you do? And I know the colleague who is a fellow journalist committed suicide. Now, I would want to ask, if you see a person is in extreme hunger, you at a level of members of parliament, at the level of LC5, what are you doing? How are you mobilizing, for example, the local community, maybe businessmen, our children who are in Kampala, or our children who are outside in other countries? How can they contribute to make sure that at least we first save a life, as we also request for more relief to come? So for me, I have a feeling that there are good projects which are happening in Karamoja. If you go to Naduket, I don't know whether the RDC has gone there. There's a cooperative society that has over 700 farmers who are owning, and I can tell you, Alex, I can share some of the pictures. If you look at their cattle, you can't even compare them with those ones in Ankole. Meaning that there are some green belts. There are some green belts in Karamoja, which can be facilitated, made sure that people produce enough food. Lastly, I also want to mention this. I think the leaders in Karamoja disagree on policy. And as we have seen with Charles, he also is sort of like trashing everything, maybe not appreciating some things so that they can keep adding on. Today, I have a recording of a chairman, LC5, whom we are going to process a story from. He said he doesn't agree with mechanization. He doesn't agree with irrigation. For him, he agrees with pastoralism, that people should be encouraged to do pastoralism. That he thinks the other solution should be market for the cows. So you can imagine if we keep with that policy shift or policy misunderstanding, And the RDC knows in the meeting with the president, some leaders were saying, if you did this in the Ankole region, where you helped the pastoralists to settle down, why can't we do it in Karamoja? But now also you have leaders who are saying this is nonsense. So you have people who keep moving from place to place. The children are not going to school. When they meet armed bandits, they either kill them or take their cattle. So it's a vicious circle of problems. Now, for me, one of the suggestions I would talk about, or I would suggest, is that the people of Karamoja must look deep inside themselves and talk about issues that affect them. For example, so I have an issue with the media in Karamoja. What is the media talking about? Because also when the media is talking about cattle rustling, it is at 90% of your discussion. One, it pushes away tourism. Nobody will ever come to a place that is insecure. Even those ones who want to bring investments will not come. In February, I wrote a story about the health centers, health facilities in the whole of Karamoja. When I mentioned them, the journalists were disputing the number. They said, we don't know these ones. Of course, the discussion was in Moroto. So those ones in Moroto, they said, we don't know this one in Kotido, we don't know this one in Abim. So for me, I found that the discussion is not a bit guided. For example, if the RDC could request maybe the office of the Prime Minister to sponsor more developmental programs on radio so that people can be able to listen. Then I would also suggest the religious leaders should be able to come and talk to people with the message of hope. Because Karamoja, I don't know so whether the RDC will agree with me and Charles, it's a patriarch society. A man is seen as king. The women go to work, they work hard, but even when they cook food, the man must first eat. But also there's a section of people or men who have made it a habit to wake up and go to the bars. And Mr. RDC knows that there is a problem of illicit warrage, which has really depreciated the man. I'm looking at this particular man who is supposed to be productive. Either he goes to look after the cattle, or maybe goes to the garden, or maybe he's going to do some trade. But he has woken up to go and take this warrage, and he wastes away. So who is staying at home? It's the other woman who is working. Lastly, let me talk about the death. In the Nabiratuk district, they were talking about almost 700 people dead. The chairman, LC5, has said he has only verified 3 people dead, and he says he's going to continue verifying. So even also when we want also the world to come and be with us and listen to us, for me, I think we also need to get to these facts. For example, I know of Moroto Referral Hospital has mentioned of a lady who died out of hunger. At least that one we have been able to capture it as media. So for me, the RDC and other readers put mechanisms of reporting so that we don't alarm for the sake of alarming, but also when the food, for example, the food is being distributed. I'm also getting reports where people who are in the distribution process are considering their relatives. So we need to really have that reporting mechanism where we tell the truth so that we are able to track those who are bad luck, the help should be going there. But we shouldn't be now seeing help going to the well-to-do families, and the problem continues to be on. Then we know the rains have been, even when in other parts of the country, rain is just a bit starting, or there are signs of rains, Karamoja has experienced some rain. Unfortunately, as they said, the food harvests, I have pictures of gardens, the harvest really will not be good. And as the RDC is saying, the government OPM is giving food and also seedling. When I was asking the journalists that, are we going to see people take on putting these seeds in the ground? Some of them told me that people are tired of putting seeds in the ground. So for me also, there must be an element of encouraging farmers to tell them that they should not give up, that they shouldn't eat the seed, that when the seed is given to you, please put it in the ground. Also, what I've seen is that when it becomes very hot, because the seed, the farmlands are not covered, what do they call it? The moisture, the loss of moisture is too much. So for me, if the RDC and all those concerned could also look at a modern way of farming, whereby you can look for grass in the wetlands, and people are able to cover these soils. Thank you very much. I can.
Yes. You used quite a number of minutes. Thank you. I want Augustine to come in at this point, but of course, the RDC will answer many of these concerns. We'll comment on many of these concerns later. Also, for the record, the journalist who took that picture of a girl who was starving, and then the vulture was waiting to eat her. The journalist was called Kevin Carter. You know, it was a terrible scene of famine in part of South Sudan. It was called Ayong. Yeah, so thank you for that good example. GoodLuck. GoodLuck makes a number of points that I think are actually very valid. One, he says, why do we have to force, like his colleague told him, why do we have to force people of Karamoja to be agriculturalists? Yet perhaps there are comparative advantages that they're pastoralists, and they can do that better and perhaps feed animal products to the rest of the country, you know. But then also this discussion is making me question, how secure are we as a country if we cannot adequately feed another part of the country? We say Uganda is a food basket of, I think, East Africa, a food basket of Africa. It has good weather that allows food to growth of plants throughout the year. But here we are with an entire sub-region facing starvation, you know, which we cannot feed. So as a country, how food secure are we? You know, I must stress that what the statistics the RDC quoted, and I think Augustine, of integrated food security phase classification actually shows that many districts are stressed in Karamoja, among them Kabong, Kotido, Moroto. They are facing stress levels, you know, quite terrible levels of stress. Almost 500,000 people are stressed, you know. That means they are on the verge of starvation. And then another, of course, another thing is about the reporting. Well, different media have different numbers. Also, that points to the inability of perhaps government and authorities to keep track of many of the people affected. Perhaps there is little control of the government. Some were quoting 50 the other week. Then I'm hearing 500, 600 this week. So we do not know. Maybe the RDC will also give us the official government figures. Augustine, please react to what the other members have been saying.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Musinguzi makes very, very, very wonderful points there. But like you said, 70% of the people there are poor. The national poverty rate is 21.3%, but we have that of Karamoja is 70%. That means it's close to over 3 times the national one. That creates a special program, a special uniqueness about Karamoja. Look, when there was a crisis in northern Uganda, this government established NUSAF, Northern Uganda something fund, to help the people of northern Uganda. What is hard? Having a special program for the people of Karamoja. What is wrong? Creating, instead of supplementaries, instead of these handouts in form of relief and so on, and the development partners running to Karamoja every other time. What is the problem? Having a special program for them. The RDC speaks about pledges of the president and so on and so forth. Man, Bwana RDC, the same president has a very good number of unfulfilled pledges. Where I come from in Tororo, he went and promised us a road in 2006. I mean, this is 2022. We are crossing to 2023. You know, if we use that as an example of 2006 and it's now 2022, if you guys are promised 26 iron sheets for 7 people in each parish, it may come in 2050. But now we need to solve the immediate problem. How do we get people out of that? We don't need pledges at this time. We need action. We need government to come out and say, this is the program that we have. Of course, the journalist there makes a very good observation. There is a difference in how we want to solve these problems, especially within the leaders. There is a gap. Now, how do we sell to them this? Bwana RDC is talking about a program for people who can cultivate 50 acres and above. I mean, people don't have land. Where are they going to get the 50 acres of land from? It will still go back to the people that own businesses in Karamoja, the people who are in leadership, top leadership, and so on and so forth, who, by the way, are not clear natives of Karamoja. How do we want the person down there to benefit? How do we want to change? Because the people dying are not you people in your offices in Karamoja. No, they are not these LC3s, apart from those that are killed as a result of cattle rustling and all these and those claims. People dying down there cannot afford, Bwana RDC, 50 acres of land. Okay? These people cannot even, there are people who are sidelined, they can't even get to the seed center. So how do we get them out there? Let us extend these programs closer to them. I don't have 2 acres of land. You're talking of giving me support for 50 acres and above. I think that is not going to be very, very easy for this government to overcome. Now, there is in Moroto, I forgot the place very clearly. There is a skilling center that is lying idle. I am one of those who want that to be a destination for the people of Karamoja, especially the hard-hit 9 districts of Karamoja. I don't want them to come to Kampala streets asking for Mpaye Chikumi. I want these people to run to the skilling center, get skills. Let them go there and get something that they can use for themselves. That is what leaders of Karamoja should now be advocating for. Can we activate the skilling center? Can we have, how can these people start to have, because they look like, if from listening from what people have deliberated, the Karamoja people look like they are detached from this country, as if they are in a world of their own. And yet, if you travel from Kampala to Moroto, which is, in my opinion, is like the biggest district of Karamoja, you travel on tarmac from Kampala to Moroto town, you are on tarmac. That means accessibility of Karamoja has been opened to some extent. Can we now improve on even the little food basket that they have? We are talking about bringing tractors to help these people because their cattle is gone. Bwana RDC, the biggest other challenge on cultivation is infertility of land. Can we sell to these people the idea that they can use fertilizers? Because I understand Even where I come from, people have myths on fertilizers. The other day, so government wanted to bring in the genetically modified foods, organisms, sorry. People said, no, we don't want them. There are always those myths with fertilizers and so on. But can we have such things instead of just solving? We know this is a long-term problem, and we are introducing very short-term solutions to them. We need things that are bigger than that. We need pesticides for them to. They also need to be sure that in this small land of mine, if I cultivate this and this, I am sure government will provide pesticides for me, and so I will not lose it. Rain is now a factor of prediction. You just predict that maybe it will rain in June. Can we be sure that there is an irrigation mechanism extended closer to the people, and we empower them to produce for themselves? Because, I mean, malnutrition is something that is about health. We have at least 9,200 mothers, and those lactating, breastfeeding mothers, malnourished in Karamoja. We cannot sit and assume that maybe it is just because these people's husbands go in the morning to drink alcohol. What are they even using to drink alcohol, to take alcohol? Because you have to buy it. So people are poor. How do we get them from that? Also, encourage them to move to these places to agricultural shows, seminars, and so on. Because now we understand at least 70% of our economy relies on agriculture. The other day, you saw the president comparing prices of coffee in Uganda and prices of coffee in the US, basing on quality, value that has been added to the coffee. $3 here, a kilo, is close to, I think, about maybe $20 in the US, because 200 grams. So can we encourage our people to plant all this and assure them that there is value addition at the end of the day? Because surely if you tell them to plant maize, at the time of planting nowadays, by the way, maize is 1,000. At the time of harvesting, you collide with just about 200 shillings per kilo of maize. So let us create also cooperatives so that we can control prices. Let us have community silos. What is wrong? You know, this government that we are talking about came at a time when even in the 90s, Bugisu Cooperative Union, for example, was very strong. I want to think that there was a deliberate effort by government to kill these cooperatives. So can we revive them? Can government take lead in reviving these cooperatives? Can we have silos for the communities of Karamoja so that people know that if I plant cotton, I will take it there and it will be, the price is, it will be maintained. If I plant maize, the price will be maintained. You get that? So for me, I think that provision of tools for production and also favorable conditions for production can help get coupled with the sensitization. You know, mindset change is important. And I implore us to start with the leaders. If we are going to change mindsets, we need to start with the leaders, because they also need a very comprehensive mindset change program. Yesterday, when I understood I was going to be on this show, I called a colleague whom I studied with from Karamoja, and he was all full of tears. People are saying we have only lost 3, I have only, the man tells me, and so on. And he was like, my brother, you don't understand what we are going through. So mindset change, community sensitization, and they should trust the people doing all this. The other day you saw government says someone was raiding and the community says our person has been killed. Now, what we need that also that understanding between government and community, because they seem not.
Thank you very much, Augustine. I want to cut you short. Thank you. It's impressive that I don't know. Do you still maintain? Maybe in 1 second. Do you still maintain your earlier position that there are really no leaders that hold power in Karamoja? GoodLuck told you that you didn't respond to GoodLuck's point of saying that you have actually 4 ministers, 2 of which are originally from the Karamoja sub-region. and there are about 29 MPs. So in one sentence, do you still think that there are no leaders there?
But we saw a fraction of the 29 MPs the other day, Alex, coming in front of camera and crying in front of
maybe it's an issue of poor leadership. Maybe it's an issue of poor leadership, and they shouldn't blame anyone else for not taking responsibility.
We shall discuss about how these people, 29 MPs, predominantly NRM, got into those positions later.
Okay, but you have four ministers in charge of Karamoja. 4 ministers at least are
from Karamoja.
Yes.
We have 4 ministers. Of the 4 ministers, only 2 are from Karamoja. Imagine a whole
ministers of Karamoja.
And yes, in a cabinet of over 80, you have 2. And
but Uganda has over 50 ethnic groups.
I want to believe that those 4 ministers are powerless.
Okay, thank you very much, Augustine. Now we are going to the RDC. Many things actually came towards you, many points came towards you. But before you respond, I want to comment on what Augustine was saying. He said there is a facility lying idle in, he mentioned, I think, Moroto district or something like that. It's supposed to skill people and all that. Maybe, Augustine, that's why the Minister of Agriculture, the President and Office of Prime Minister are really pulling up their stockings and saying, you know what, we need to do something. In a letter dated 14th of July 2022, the President, writing to the directing the Office of the Prime Minister and also responding to what the Minister for Agriculture had written to him the day before, said, and I quote, "I totally agree and approve of your plans to assist," the plans of the Minister of Agriculture, to assist Uganda Prison Services, National Enterprise Corporation, Uganda People's Defense Forces, and big farmers in northern Uganda and other areas to engage in large-scale production. So the President also directed, that other farmers, that the ministry should prioritize and boost and help other groups such as National Leadership Institute, the National Agriculture Research Organization, NARO, and National Animal Genetic Resource Center and Data Bank to scale up and skill more the people in many regions such as Karamoja and northern Uganda. So, Mr. Okiyra, many questions came to you, many ventings came to you, people were angry, people are complaining. Please, you will answer this in the next few minutes, and we shall have one round and complete this session.
I will begin by answering the question of the industrial hub in a park. It's not lying idle. That industrial park, they put in place an executive about 3 weeks ago. And the district chairperson of Napak district is the chair. And the Kabong, the chief administrative officer, is the vice chair. And in that meeting, they also opened up the programs there. The 5 trades are starting straight away. The students were asked to report on the 11th of July. So that hub is very much operationalized. Now, let me go back to the question, which was the big question, the elephant in the room. Why are people still poor? When the president made the political leaders and the security heads in Morulinga recently, he explained, on which I agree with, that there is a big section of our society, our community, who believe that wealth creation is by raids. And you know very well that it cannot happen that you are going to indulge in primitive accumulation of wealth by raids, having guns that you are going to grow rich. Recently, one of the universities working with the Masecops published a research where Kabong and Kotido, their wealth amongst the youth went down because of raids. But the wealth of youth in Amudat went up because the youth in Amudat are doing border. The youth in Amudat are trading cattle even up to Nairobi. So raids are a very big danger to us as people of Karamoja. And that's why the government, His Excellency the President, directed the army to embark on serious disarmament, and the UPDF is very decisive about this. And it is the carrot and the stick, because for each youth who hands in a gun voluntarily, we give him 16 goats as a reward. So this program of disarmament has taken, it is progressing very well with me in Kabong. By now we have collected 55 guns out of an estimated 150. So we are moving on steadily, and the youth are very much encouraged to hand in the guns voluntarily. Now, the other question is, government is mismanaging the minerals. Again, I would like to assure the panelists that the government had started on aerial survey for minerals and even petroleum. But you remember, we had a problem where the geologists were, 2 geologists were murdered and 2 soldiers in Moroto. So that stopped that exercise. So recently, the Ministry for Mineral Development organized a meeting in Moroto at Hotel Africana with the company which is supposed to be conducting the aerial survey. That meeting sat and agreed that aerial survey is going to resume, and the security departments were tasked to make sure that the team of experts that's coming to do aerial survey and even geochemical surveys on the ground shall be provided with security, and that survey is going to continue. The purpose of that survey is government wants to establish the quantities of minerals in Karamoja and then be able to invite investors to come and take on marble, to take on gold, to take on uranium, to take on the various minerals that are deposited within Karamoja. So government has not yet looted any mineral. Actually, what the government is doing now is to try and establish how much quantity of the minerals we have, and even the petroleum, which is suspected to be in Kadam, in Nakapri. The other question which came up, this service commission, Kabong has got a fully constituted this service commission, and there is no problem about that. The other issue is the policy of pastoralism alone or with agriculture. I would like to inform my colleagues, the panelists, that we had about 10 years ago, Karamoja Seed Agency in Kotido. And this company or agency was giving a program of agriculture to farmers whom they would go and identify, they would go and plow for them and provide the seed. That's why if you compare the Kotido and the Kabong, the people of Kotido are more grounded in agriculture because they were introduced to this. So it is possible to have both pastoralism and agriculture, because the Karamojongo people, if you lived with them, they take, there is a drink called ebutia. It's just like omuramba in the other side of Western Uganda. So it is a drink. It is not an alcohol. They drink it for breakfast, and it is a food. So that food, that drink is produced from sorghum. So pastoralism, yes, but it should be, in my opinion, conducted together with agriculture. And the other issue which I need to go back to is that when the president was in Morulinga recently, he informed the political leaders that there is a market which he identified in Saudi Arabia for goats. And that's why government and through OPM is supplying goats so that our people begin, rearing goats with the target of being able to market our goats from Karamoja in Saudi Arabia. And the president also suggested that Nadunget airstrip be upgraded to be able to become an airport, so that a cargo plane will just leave Nadunget airport in Moroto loaded with goods direct to Saudi Arabia. So that one is also a very good opportunity for our people. The other issue which was touched on is the issue of who owns wealth, who owns the hotelier. I would like to inform the panelists that we have 2 very beautiful hotels in Kabong. We have got Kabong Resort and Rangeland. Kabong Resort belongs to the late Minister for Ethics, Father Lokodo. So he is a native. The Rangeland Hotel belongs to the former MP, Honorable Sam Lokeris. So our people are grounded in investments in Kabong. But I would like to hasten to add that our biggest challenge, and which we are dealing with as government, is the issue of illegal guns in the hands of our younger people. The other issue which was mentioned was religious leaders. Are they involved? As I speak now, we have got a project which is being run by Father Raphael Robele. He's a Catholic father, and he wrote a project proposal to mobilize youth into handing over into voluntary disarmament, and also to involve themselves in micro projects. And that project is being supported by the Ministry of Karamoja Affairs. The issue of mechanization. Mechanization is a very important aspect of increasing productivity and production in agriculture. And there is no way we can run away from it, because we either go into mechanization or we shall not increase production. And let me also hasten to add that one of the panelists said, you see, when you're talking about 50 acres, the 50 acres is an option, because the parish development model is targeting the smallholder farmer. This one of the 50 acres is just an option for those who have capacity. And our people in Kabong still have the land. Our honorable members of parliament have got a lot of land, and I think all of them have tractors. They are already doing 30, 40 acres. So they are already potential members or potential beneficiaries for this program. We have land, but our challenge is the problem animals, the elephants. Right this morning at around 8, our prison farm, the OC prison is Rwangami, the elephants visited their farm and destroyed a lot of sunflower. So those are some of the challenges we are facing. Farming, yes, we have got the farmland. Is the soil very fertile? Yes, the soil is fertile, except problem animals and having few implements for mechanization. The other issue which distribution of food is subverted. We have made now very many, because at sub-county level, we have got a committee. Once food is allocated from the district, it's delivered to the sub-county committee. And the sub-county committee is the one which is supposed to handle the distribution of that food. So I have no doubt in my mind that the sub-county committees are very responsive, and they are going to help our people to ensure that food is properly distributed. The issue of Kurudu Waraji, or if you monitor the press reports, all districts have begun impounding and pouring Kurudu Waraji in our localities. Why? Because one of the factors that influence cattle raids is Kurudu Waraji. Those raiders first drink Waraji when they are near a kraal, and then they will attack. They will even run over, they will just confront the army because they are drunk. So we have found that it's very important for the district security committees. We have all passed a resolution that all Waraji which enters our district should be impounded, and it must be poured, so that our people are not exposed, one, to the younger people taking Waraji and then running to the bushes to go and raid, and two, it is also very dangerous, because most of the Waraji which comes to Karamoja has been proven to have the poison. There is a poisonous substance, I think it is the same or something like that, because it's not a well-defined Waraji, and you find people very wasted because they have only taken 1 meal a day. You find somebody collapsing and passing on. So yes, someone has died but now the Waraji is also a contributing factor to the demise of our people. So that is what I can say as of now. But if there is a specific question, it will be very much welcome. But I must appreciate the panelists for bringing out very pertinent issues. And as they were discussing, you could clearly see that they are also proposing a possible way forward of assisting our people to get out of the cycle of acute food shortage. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Maybe you've left out the issue of, you've actually left out the issue of the numbers. Who is telling the truth? Daily Monitor 21st of July reported 600 deaths due to starvation. What are the official figures?
The report which I have on my desk, for what I quoted as our June food security report, we did not capture sub-count by sub-count, but I have one sub-count which reported 3 people who died in the month of July. I think that was Olowo. But the other sub-counties did not submit any death. But if I'm just to go back to the statistics, the figures which I have here is talking about the families that can afford 1 meal a day, they account for the majority, 70%. Families which can afford 2 meals per day are 25%. And those ones who can afford 3 meals a day are the minimum at 5%. So, but then we have not registered, the production officer did not feed me in the issue of fatalities, but it is only the Royal Sub-County which wrote a report to my office and specified that 3 people had died out of famine.
Thank you very much. And Chris Mike, I'm asking you to lower your phone a bit or your gadget so that we are able to see your face. We are seeing mainly the okay, that is okay. In one round and of 2 minutes each, strictly, I would like to have each one of you make their concluding remarks. We shall begin with you, GoodLuck, Agustine, then conclude with Mike. In 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. I thank the RDC for ably replying some of the issues I raised. Though the answers are for Kabong, and maybe next time we shall always also hear from other districts, and we'll be able to know what the truth is, so that also it helps. If you look Karamoja from north to south, the distance is almost over 500 kilometers. If you are from Kampala to Kisoro, that is, if you took that line, that is the distance almost from the lower part of Karamoja to the north near the Sudan border. It's a very big place. It's very expansive. And remember also, people keep migrating. So for me, one of the solutions is I would say that the communities need to be gathered in places so that they can be able to be helped. Even here, when you talk of families which eat 1 meal a day, I can tell you mine is part of that. We also can no longer have the luxury of having too much food on our tables. But what I've seen in areas where I go in other areas, also when you find a family that is not doing bad, is doing bad law, there's an element where people come together and maybe help. So, but in Karamoja also, because you have people moving up and down, that element of togetherness might not be there. I can promise maybe Captain Chris that I will be joining and other groups of media from Kampala. We are going to come and have a week in Karamoja. Maybe we shall be able to come to Kabong and be able to visit you and move around and be able to profile some of these things so that also we can be able to tell the real story. Thank you very much for hosting me. I remain GoodLuck, Musinguzi.
Thank you very much. Augustine, in 2 minutes, please.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you himself available for this discussion. There are very few government officials, at least in this. In my conclusion, the whole country is a mess, and government should invest seriously in looking for lasting solutions. We've already been told, of course, that the fuel prices, we have nothing to do with fuel prices. Of course, these things all reflect, they go back and contribute to the hunger and food security and insecurity issues at the end of the day. We've been told we have nothing to do with fuel, so at least we will make electric cars and get out of fuel. Commodity prices are still going up. To be frugal, consume what is at least bare minimum so that you can have another meal tomorrow. But also, government should interest itself in happenings, in goings on in Karamoja and the other sub-regions of Uganda that are in dire need of, like Bukedi. Bukedi also has the same characteristic with the Karamoja. And the other day you had the president clearly state, if you want to know about what happened to phosphate and those other things, go to Tororo and ask, they will tell you. The factory collapsed. So that's basically what is there. So for the people of Uganda and the people who have so we say thank you. And I am Augustine. Thank you for the opportunity to be on air.
Thank you very much. And we are going to have our DC have the final say.
I would like to thank the panelists so much. They have brought up very pertinent issues which need to be considered to be able to address the issues that are affecting our people. Now, going forward, I would like to add my voice to say that we should also support the disarmament process that is happening, and actually to support voluntary disarmament, because voluntary disarmament has got rewards. 2, provision of relief food for the next 1 or 2 months is very important, because the season, our people are waiting for the crops to mature, so they still need some food relief. The issue of provision of tractors, our people don't have animal traction systems. It is very important whether government considers hand tractors, it will help our people to be able to open up land, produce food in future. Then we have got children who are malnourished. These ones need to be treated, including the elderly. Then the issue of parish development model, would like to support both the smallholder farmers and the large farmers. And then we need to do supplementary feeding of children and even the mothers, because there are children who need supplementary feeding. Now, on food production of bourrash, millet, maize, and beans as the key crops which ensure food security in our families. We are also proposing that there should be diversification. Our people should be introduced to so that it can be able to support household incomes. You people who are in Kampala, you are doing rabbits, if possible, and we have got some implementing partner who can bring us rabbits. They can also help to diversify the household incomes. Then we had a meeting with the World Food Program, and they were talking about introducing drought-resistant wheat. I would like to welcome that idea. If we introduce drought-resistant wheat in Karamoja, we shall be feeding into the option that the president was talking about yesterday. If some people can produce wheat locally, then we'll be able to support the gap that is left because of the war in Ukraine. Now, in our production, each time we meet, we propose the introduction of rich genetics of cattle and goats. You find that we are informed that in Botswana, you find one animal raised up to 50 kilograms, 500 kilograms, but now most of our animals are 100. So it would be very important for us to introduce rich genetics of cattle and goats so that we can be able to penetrate the export market. The other one is that we should also embrace the community empowerment program, the goats which are being given under OPM and the iron sheets, so that our people benefit from not only the government programs, but also from the programs which are being implemented by our implementing partners. I would like to thank the panelists most sincerely, and I would like to thank our dear TV for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my colleagues in Karamoja region. May God bless you so very much.
Thank you very much to our dear panelists for exhaustively contributing to this discussion. It's important that there is action done to avert the perennial hunger crisis in Karamoja. GoodLuck told us that in 1981, there was still a serious famine that occurred. People died. These semi-famines or sub-famines have continued. They continue to go on to this day. We call upon all stakeholders, government, please ensure that no one in this country dies of hunger. Uganda is a food basket. Uganda's weather is favorable to agriculture throughout the year. Why should we have people dying of hunger? And I'd like to leave us with a question that again was posed by Agnes Tirabo, the Executive Director of Food Alliance, of Food Rights Alliance. She said, and she has been quoted by the Daily Monitor, last year, meaning 2021, we had a bumper harvest. Where did all that food go if it did not go to waste? We need to have a national food reserve that supports the producing parts of the country to produce more and also ensure the food goes to areas where there is food scarcity, end quote. Indeed, we should make sure that no person in this country, in this modern day and age, dies of hunger. The SDGs have made it clear one of the main goals is ending poverty and also ending world hunger. I call upon those who can contribute, those ones who have means to support people who are starving. This is the time to act. This is the time to feed people who are hungry. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our host, Center for Constitutional Governance and the Civic Space TV. I remain yours truly, Martin, and see you another week. God bless.